I've always thought of myself as something of a romantic, and as a shy, nerdy introvert growing up, that meant I read a lot of fan fiction. A lot. A lot. But I was born in the 80s. I remember life before the World Wide Web. I was shipping before I even knew what shipping was. So this year for Valentine's Day, I thought I'd look back at some of my favorite ships from when I was still a kid. If I got into it after high school, it doesn't count. And yeah, this list will probably be a little embarrassing. But you know what they say, don't kill the part of you that's cringe, kill the part of you that cringes. Also, full disclosure, a truly accurate version of this list would have had Ron and Hermione on it. And that is all I'm going to say about that. So, here we go.
Would you like to stay for dinner?
Would you like to stay forever?
My top 6 favorite childhood ships.
Dinner would be great.
Number 6. This was probably the first ship I ever had. I grew up with the Mario games. I have a lot of fun memories of playing them with my sister. Call me basic, I guess. I just always thought Mario and Peach was a cute pairing. I'm kind of a sucker for royalty or nobility plus commoner ships. And sure, maybe there's not a lot of substance to this particular romance. Princess Peach is the poster child for the damsel in distress, and Mario is a mostly silent protagonist. It's frosting with not a lot of cake underneath. But I've always had a sweet tooth. And my favorite games from the franchise are the Paper Mario series. In those games, Peach is actually given some agency and actively helps move the plot forward. There's not a whole lot else I can say. I thought they were cute as a kid, and I still think they're cute. We'll see how well they pull it off in the movie. Number 5.
Princess, you're doing a great job.
Thanks. You're sweet. You're wrong, but sweet.
A Bug's Life has always been one of my favorite Pixar movies. It's far from the best thing to come out of the studio, and I wouldn't consider it underrated or criminally overlooked. It just checked a lot of my favorite boxes. I like the art style, I like the jokes, and I really like the characters. Even as a kid, I saw a lot of myself in Atta, a character racked with self-doubt and anxiety. And yes, here we go, it's another royalty commoner ship. What can I say? Flik is one of my favorite Pixar characters. Your mileage may vary, but I really enjoyed him as the bumbling but well-meaning and enthusiastic protagonist. You know how I'm always going on about animation using every opportunity to show off a character's personality? There's this really great subtle moment where Flik and Atta are walking through the anthill, and before they round a corner and come into frame, you can see their shadows on the wall. And Atta's shadow is moving normally while Flik's is bouncing along, underlying his restless energy. It's that level of detail that has always elevated Pixar's films. And I really like how Flik and Atta's relationship grows over the course of the movie, how they come to a mutual understanding and admiration for each other. It may not be one of Pixar's grander romances, but sometimes a bite-sized candy bar is all you need. By the way, who else played the A Bug's Life video game as a kid? That shit was hard.
Thank you.
Number 4.
Let go, Kari, or he'll get you too! No, I won't let you go, DJ!
I've talked about Kari before. I grew up with Digimon, and this ship just always seemed obvious to me. They were the youngest members of the team, the younger siblings of the two leads, narrative foils for each other. And oh yeah, they were the only two Digidestined to have angel Digimon for partners. Friends to Lovers has always been my favorite flavor of romance, so this ship was right up my alley. I'm honestly kind of surprised that the 02 epilogue, for all its over-the-top portrayal of a perfect happy future, didn't go with the ship that always seemed like a foregone conclusion. Of course, that's just a drop in the bucket of the colossal disappointment that was the 02 epilogue. As I get older, other pairings within the franchise started interesting me more. Kari was a classic puppy love story, perfect for a young shipper. None of these my favorite Digimon ships even remotely canon, by the way. Hey, but that's what fanfiction is for. Number 3.
Will I see you again? You will. I swear.
Hey, I warned you. Especially when I was younger, I had a tendency to latch on to the first romance that seemed canon in any media. As I got older, I discovered the wonders of AUs, but as a kid, I just enjoyed Ash and Misty's dynamic. They were both stubborn hotheads, but they had a genuinely sweet friendship. I remember little me watching this scene in particular, where Ash sees Misty with her hair down at the festival, and I was like, oh, that's so cute. I had the To Be a Master CD. I liked Misty's song. Eldana Doublecast has a bit in her Pokemon Ships video where she jokes that every ship with Ash and the main female lead is basically the same ship, and yeah, I can see that. I bet if I'd grown up with the later generations, I'd be on Team Pearl shipping or Team Advanced shipping. But I stopped watching during Johto. I can't say the kid in me hasn't gotten a kick out of seeing Ash and Misty together in Alola. And hey, after 25 years, Ash's story has finally come to an end. It feels like the right move. It's time to hand the franchise off to some new characters. Time to create the next generation of Poke shippers. I can only imagine where the anime will go from here. And even if I don't have time for Pokemon like I used to, I'll always have a special place in my heart for the Indigo League, Pokemon Yellow, and Poke shipping.
You and I will be married someday too.
Number 2.
Wow, you look beautiful.
Whoo boy, okay. So when I said I had a tendency to latch on to the first romance that canon presented, I wasn't exaggerating. Literally all it took to get me on board with Katang was this moment from the first episode, and I was like, yes, super cute, let's do this. It's a shame that the show went on to force some of the worst tropes in existence onto the pair of them. From the third act misunderstanding to an unhealthy level of if I can't have you, a lot of their big romantic moments are really hard to watch in hindsight. I mean, sure, the characters were just kids, and even if they weren't, real people do make unhealthy decisions in their relationships. It happens. But I feel like this had the potential to be a really sweet friends to lovers romance if some adjustments had just been made. Aang brought joy back into Katara's life, and Katara gave Aang a place to belong when he felt lost. The two of them also felt equally goofy in the earlier episodes, before Katara started drifting more into being the girly girl to Toph's tomboy. If the writing had leaned more into a natural progression of their friendship, it might have aged much better than it has. Of course, it doesn't help that the Katang-Zutara ship wars were some of the most heated of any fandom I've ever seen. I was not a fan of Zutara until literally the last episode. I distinctly remember watching this moment and thinking, oh, yeah, I get it now, yeah, this would have made more sense. I mean, I still cheered for the big damn kiss at the end because at that point I was committed. But wow, for this being the main pairing on a show with such extraordinary writing otherwise, it definitely could have benefited from a few more rewrites.
It's reminded me how I feel about Appa. And how I feel about you.
Dinner would be great.
I've been. How about a kiss instead? I'm game.
Between its catchy, jazzy theme song, unique art style, and off-the-wall humor, The Fairly OddParents was one of the most popular Nicktoons of the 2000s. Today, we're left with the rotting husk of a franchise that should have died out years ago, and in light of all the tired, played-out live-action movies and reboots, it's easy to forget how fresh and fun the original Oh Yeah cartoon was. It had a sharp, snappy sense of humor. This show in particular has aged wonderfully.
I hate lava lamps. Like, what do you do for fun? And you can download different lava.
The early show had a very vintage 1950s feel to it. Timmy's parents never showed their faces. Cosmo's early voice sounded like an old-school game show host.
We're magic. Ooh, magic. Ooh.
And the show had some truly endearing characters. Timmy made a great straight man to Cosmo and Wanda's zany antics. The Turners were bumbling and a bit clueless, but they didn't start off as complete morons. Yeah, The Fairly OddParents has some of the worst Flanderization I've ever seen in a show. Most of the characters suffered from it to some extent, but none more so than the three leads. Timmy started out as an average boy who had simple, fun wishes, and he loved his parents and godparents. But over the course of the series, he became a bitter jerk-ass. Cosmo and Wanda were initially much closer in terms of personality and intelligence.
We're two halves of a whole idiot.
The fun came from watching them be silly together, from watching them get Timmy into and out of trouble. And they were sickeningly in love.
Ooh, may I, Pookie?
Of course, Stallion.
It was honestly kind of refreshing. The 90s was the era of irony. Sincerity was lame. Everything had to be undercut with a level of detached sarcasm. To see a couple madly in love like this and in a kids show, it was nice. It was cute. This was frosting with plenty of cake underneath. And watching it all go to shit was one of the most disappointing experiences I've had with the series. As the writing devolved, Cosmo and Wanda's personalities started shifting to opposite extremes. Wanda started to become the voice of reason, while Cosmo became more airheaded. It wasn't too bad at first, but their personalities took an absolute nosedive in the later seasons. Wanda became a shrill, nagging harpy, and Cosmo reached parodic levels of stupidity, with a change in voice to match and a new laugh that could break glass. And their relationship similarly tanked, falling into overused, unfunny stereotypes of gender roles and straight-person anti-marriage jokes. It was painful to watch. Cosmo and Wanda started out fun and adorable. Their silly synchronicity made them entertaining. I probably consumed more fanfiction for the Fairly OddParents than any other fandom, partly because I love the show so much and partly because of how disappointing the source material had become. And sure, the show was never perfect, but at least those early episodes had heart. Cosmo and Wanda loved each other and their god kid, and Timmy loved them, and watching this sweet little family unit break down into 3 people who seemed to hate each other was really sad. I think the creators became aware of the backlash because there was an attempt to course correct in School's Out the musical, the last good thing to come out of the franchise, but it honestly felt like too little too late. Their musical number was cute, but it felt like a shadow of what had once made Cosmo and Wanda so great. I still love the show, at least the early seasons. I love the jokes, I love the characters in their original forms, and I love Cosmo and Wanda. I still can't see pink and green together without thinking about them. Not every franchise can end on a high note, sure, but it's a shame that Nickelodeon keeps trying to squeeze more out of this property when there's clearly nothing left. Fairly Odder did recently get cancelled, so hopefully we'll see this franchise finally put to rest. And hey, at least we'll always have fanfiction.
I'm sorry I yelled at you, Puddin'. I promise I won't do it unless you really mess up again. Like I will tomorrow? It's a date!
Let me know what your favorite childhood ships were. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I'm eternally optimistic, and I'll catch you guys next time.